I'd like to welcome everyone to Texags Rewind. David Nuno. I feel like talking like a golf show. I hear Dalton in the background. Hi, Fan Show guys.
Hello. Hey.
Is that rude to call you the Fan Show guys?
It's cool. I'm good with it.
Matt Chase, how are you?
I wish we should have like a fire in the background.
We could have
bottle
that.
of wine.
A
little bubbly.
Yeah, or water for me. Hey, on the show, I went really loud there, apologize. We did the Heisman Watch with our buddy OB, and we also talked to our QB1, Stephen McGee. He kind of broke down a little bit of what we're seeing from Zach Calzada from the past couple of weeks and how he's improving. Also, we got it done with Ryan Swope. We get it done every Thursday with Ryan Swope. Aaron Torres of Fox Sports joined us. And guys, what was your favorite part of the show?
Fan Show.
Just being here with you.
My favorite part was the fact that he didn't allow us to play paper, rock, scissors on the radio.
Yeah, we were going to farkle.
And it was very rude. It is the Texags Rewind.
Well, let's go with Desmond Ridder, the quarterback from Cincinnati. He had kind of a modest performance, that 56-21 victory over UCF. He only completed 13 of 23 passes for just 140 yards and a touchdown. But the Bearcats are still unbeaten. He's a major reason why. He's passed for 1,444 yards and 13 touchdowns this year, and he's rushed for 118 and 3 scores.
If they go undefeated, is he going to get invited?
I think so, especially if he has, some of his that was a pedestrian performance for anybody, but it was a rare pedestrian performance from him. If he has some of, more of his typical performances, I think he'll be up there.
All right, let's move up to number 4.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud, the Ohio State quarterback. The Buckeyes were open last week, so he didn't get a chance to build on his numbers. But he's thrown for 736 yards and 10 touchdowns in just the last 2 games. Overall, he's thrown for 1,699 yards and 18 touchdowns.
He is someone who I think week 1 and 2, there were some question marks, but he has figured it out.
Remember he figured it out like in the second half of the first game, and
right.
Then they lost to Oregon. But then he's been, playing really well ever since.
He's been money since. Number 3 is a guy who didn't have a huge game this past weekend, but he's consistent.
That's right. Kenneth Walker, the running back from Michigan State, a transfer from Wake Forest. How good would they be if he was still there? But he only rushed for 84 yards last week against Indiana, and that's really not a bad game.
Right.
But for him it is. That did raise his total on the year to 997 yards. He's rushed for 9 touchdowns, so he's on pace here at the halfway for a 2,000-yard season.
Huge year. Now, they still have their toughest games ahead of them.
Coming up, absolutely.
So I think Michigan coming up. And
Ohio State.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. All right, so you've got the famous 1A, 1B again.
Yeah, this is closest to be a tie as I can come up with, and I really can't think of which one I would vote for today. I might change my mind several times, so I guess I have to give the edge to Bryce Young over Matt Corral because Alabama won.
Is that also based on the fact that you kind of see what's going to happen in the future? Alabama possibly winning out, and Ole Miss maybe stumbling once or twice.
Well, I try not to look ahead.
Okay.
I try to base it all on what they've done so far. And Bryce Young won the game when they matched up head-to-head. So that, to me, gives – if all things are equal, that separates it in my mind. But Corral, I don't think any individual is more responsible for their team's success than Matt Corral.
He's a little banged up.
Mm-hmm. Or so they say.
So they say.
But last week he threw for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns, which doesn't sound like that big a deal. But then he also rushed for 195 yards in that win over Tennessee.
I think it would be huge. I think we talked about it yesterday, the day before. If A&M can stop him too, right? Or neutralize. Stopping is, he can run on you. He showed that last week. He can throw. He makes all the big-time throws. But if A&M can get through Bryce Young and Matt Corral in the same season, that would say so much.
That'd be amazing, yeah. Anyway, he's third in the nation in total offense with 1,728 passing yards and 450 rushing yards. He's thrown for 14 touchdowns and rushed for 8.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
That's why I'm having such a difficult time separating him and Bryce Young from Alabama quarterback. He had another game, another big performance. He completed 20 of 28 passes for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns in that 49-9 victory over Mississippi State. He's thrown for more than 300 yards in 4 games this year and has thrown multiple touchdown passes in every game. Overall, 2,082 passing yards and 24 touchdowns.
He's legit. Too legit to quit.
So who do you separate? Who would you take between Young and Corral?
I think I'm leaning towards Bryce Young, but there's something about Matt Corral that if it continues winning in spite of what I think is not the defense we thought that they had maybe turned into in the start of the season, I could be swayed.
Yeah, what bothers me is I say if you took Matt Corral and put him in Alabama's offense and Bryce Young and put him in Mississippi State's, which guy would be more likely to be successful and which guy would be more likely to falter? And I think the answer is Matt Corral would be more likely to be successful. Now, if you put the backup quarterback in for both teams, who's likely to be more successful?
Alabama.
Yeah, I kind of think that too.
I think Ole Miss, I don't want injuries, but
right.
if A&M were to play Ole Miss without Matt Corral, I'm not complaining.
I wouldn't either.
I mean, that makes A&M the favorite in that game, but that's a long way before that. That's still, 3 weeks out?
So anyway, I think it's pretty much a two-man race for the Heisman. And it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys play down the stretch.
Two-man race for the Heisman, but how many get invited?
Typically 4.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah, I think Brett Favre said it best. Swing pass is the hardest pass in football to complete. Really? That guy's going away from you, and sometimes they got a little angle upfield, and so you're trying to put the ball right out in front of them, and they're fast, and you generally got pressure. You got to get it over a guy. So I don't want to make it sound like it's easy. At the end of the day, though, you got to execute on those 10 out of 10 times, and I think Zach knows that. I think his ball release, he's a higher. All those screen pass. We saw one against Mississippi State, I think it was. No, Arkansas. We had off the helmet. We were trying to throw that angle screen pass where the running back comes out of the backfield, and his release point is high. Now you got to get the ball up high on screen passes. I know coaches would always teach us to drift toward the throw and then have the release point be higher, so you're coming down with a little bit of touch. You can't float it out there because it's going to be a blow up play, but at the same time you can't gun it in there. And so I think Zach can get better at that. I would be surprised if he doesn't. But so there are some weeks though when he's on point with those, and so it's hard to sit here and say, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was a mental deal, but those were tough plays to watch.
Man, that backfield, I feel like I'm saying that every week, but it's true. Those guys, talk about just maybe one of the best 1-2 punches in America. Those guys, they're fun to watch. They really are. They're talented. They can catch the ball. They're just dynamic players. Spiller and Achain, I think that we really have teams second guessing themselves when game planning, and they make it difficult because they've got the ability to catch the ball to the backfield, and really their yak is most impressive to me. Their ability to just continue to keep their feet moving, and they're just powerful runners, and they've really helped us, set up the pass game for sure.
All right, who's going to get it done this upcoming weekend as the Ags host South Carolina?
Man, I'm going to go with Calzada. I don't think he had his best stuff this past weekend. I think that he would probably tell you the same thing coming off, what he did against Alabama. I think that it definitely was average. And I'm sure that he would tell you the exact same thing, but I know, he's a competitor. I know he's been in the film room watching, and I know that they, I think that he's going to have a big game this week, along with a couple of those receivers. So I'll take our passing game and our quarterback.
Well, I think it's really interesting, David. I've made a few phone calls on this, and the sentiment that I continue to get is that LSU's greatest gift might also be its greatest curse, right? All we hear about is the last 3 coaches have won national championships. That is 1,000% true. There's a record book that shows that. Here's the issue. The last 2 coaches that won national championships have been fired in the last 5 years. And, I was talking to somebody just as an example, kind of plugged into the Michigan State stuff. And it's like, Mel Tucker gets paid $5.5 million a year. Nobody is arguing that LSU is a better coaching job. But you look at what Mel Tucker and this is just an example. I don't know if he's the leader. I don't know how interested LSU is, but he's making $5.5 million, right? Michigan State is in the Big Ten. They can match money that LSU throws out there, but even if LSU pays you $8-9 million a year, which is obviously life-changing money for you and your family, do you stay at Michigan State where all of a sudden James Franklin might be out this year? We don't know where Jim Harbaugh is, what his future is. Ryan Day is one season away from deciding, screw this, I'm going to the NFL. And I'm not saying any of that will happen, but, if you're making 5.5 at Michigan State, you're going to get a pay bump after this year. Yes, you can go to LSU where you can compete for national championships, but yes, you can also go to LSU where you're competing with Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, on and on. And, oh, by the way, if you have back-to-back 7 and 5 seasons while you're building your program, you might get canned in the process. And so, again, I use Mel Tucker as a jumping-off point to talk in the broader picture of this is a great job. Nobody is disputing it, and I have zero doubt that they will get somebody that is a truly elite coach. But David, I'll bring it back to the last time this job was hired and something that's kind of local with you guys. Let's never forget, the only reason Coach O got that job in the first place was because Tom Herman leveraged LSU to get Charlie Strong fired at Texas and get the Texas job. Because the path at Texas, while it didn't work out for Tom Herman, was easier than the path at LSU. And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing that comes out of this. Obviously, I think USC being open and there being some kind of candidates that would cross over there is fascinating as well. But I'll just tell you, it's not often you get a job this prominent open this early and, let the speculation run wild, because the next 5-6 weeks trying to figure out who the next guy there is going to be fascinating.
All right, can you use your soccer voice, or excuse me, your golf voice to close us out, guys? Can you take turns?
Sure.
Go ahead.
We're going to subscribe,
Share and comment
on YouTube.
It's very intimate here at Tech Sags Rewind. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.